Hello, this is Nana Ansah. You're watching Homeland, the story of the Returnee. Today with me, we have a songwriter, a singer, a chief, a techno director of theSOFTtribe Limited, and of course, the owner of DKB Studio. The name is David Kwamena Bolton. And a computer engineering. Hello, Mr. David.
Hi. You're welcome. I'm good, thanks.
Well, before we start the interview, we usually have a segment called Yes or No.
Okay.
So I ask you questions and then you just answer yes or no.
All right, I'll give it a go.
Okay. So as you already know, the segment is yes or no. I'm going to ask Mr. David the questions and then he's going to answer yes or no. And we'll see more about him and then dive more into the hobbies. So, Mr. David, do you cook?
Yes.
What can you cook?
I cook almost everything.
Okay.
Yeah, almost everything. I'm not too good with the Ghanaian dishes, but I like, I can read the recipes and try my best. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
That's fine. Can you live without the internet?
No, never.
Have you ever sent a text to the wrong person?
Many times, yes.
Have you ever lost a fight?
Yes.
Fist?
Yes. Both. Both.
Are you concerned about what others think about you?
I used to be, but not so much now.
Why not much now?
Because as you grow older, you realize that everybody has a different viewpoint. You see the thing, and you literally you can't please everybody. You see the thing. So I think you just have to do what you can do best, and then those that accept it will. Those that don't can criticize you. Yeah. Okay,
that's a good advice, guys. Listen to that. Well, usually we start off with the yes and no segment, and that was the end of our yes and no segment. So I'm going to dive into your hobbies growing up.
Okay,
were you born in Ghana? Were you born abroad?
Right, I was born in London.
Okay.
My mum is Ghanaian, my dad was Scottish, and my mum left Ghana, I think, in the late 60s, and she was a nurse. So she met my dad in the UK. They got married, and then I was the first result of that. Yeah.
Are you the only child?
No, I have another sister from my mum, but we are 7 in all from my dad.
Oh wow! From
yeah.
different?
Yeah, 3 different wives. So my dad was prolific.
Well, so growing up in London, what was like your hobbies? What were the things that you were interested in?
When I was very young, I remember I grew up in a rural part of England, Surrey, which is just outside of London. So there were lots of forests and so on. So I remember my friends and I, we used to play in the woods a lot. So we used to play war games, hide and seek, that sort of thing. So we were always with nature. So I grew up liking nature a lot. Yeah.
Well, I read that you started your computing at 9 and you became a consultant at 15.
Yeah.
How was that for you?
Okay, what happened? It's a long story, so I'll cut it short. My dad bought me a small computer from my Christmas present when I was 9.
Okay.
And my parents were not rich. We lived a very humble life, shall I say. So it was actually a second-hand computer that he got for me, and it was a very, very small computer. It had 2 kilobytes of memory.
I don't know much about
2K.
2K, okay.
Right now, to give you an idea, 1K right? 1,000 1Ks makes 1 megabyte.
Okay.
Right? And 1,000 megabytes makes 1 gigabyte.
Okay.
So you can imagine 2K.
2K.
2K is like one sheet of typed paper.
Oh, okay.
It's about one sheet.
More layman language, understand that more.
Yeah. So there wasn't very much you could do with it, but that's how I started learning how to program. And the way I did it is every month there were these magazines that used to come out, and they would have pages and pages of listed code, computer code. So you'd have to actually literally copy it all out, type it into the computer, and then there would be errors in it, so there'll be, in fact, they did it on purpose in the magazines. So it would force you to try and, what they call, debug the program and fix it. So for me, it was like a puzzle. So I used to find the challenge of fixing these programs and then getting it to work.
Yeah.
And then when it worked, then you can say, okay, if I change this bit here, it can do something different and all of that. So my dad saw that I had a huge interest in it. And then I think less than 2 months later, he got me another computer.
So you haven't the magazines kind of created that creative bug in your head because of the coding and everything.
Yeah.
So you put in like the code and so if I change this code, I can create other software. So that's how it started.
That's how it started. Yeah.
So as 9, learning all these things, like what made you want to turn it into a business?
Okay, it wasn't a conscious decision. It just happened by chance, shall I say. And I think that's how most things happen in life. When you are excited about something and you show a lot of interest, you tend to spend a lot of time on it, and one thing leads to another.
Yeah.
So what happened is, I think when I was about 12 years, my dad had a few friends that were running businesses, and they had computers, and they were older people, and they didn't understand anything about computers. So my dad used to call me and say, "Oh, my son can sort you out." So I used to go in and then install their computers, install the software, and fix whatever problems they had. They would ask me, okay, can you type this document for me? Can you do this spreadsheet for me? I said, sure. And they used to give me like 50 pence, £1, for what I was doing. And then I realized, oh, I could make like £5, £10 from doing this in a week. So I realized, oh, then I don't need to rely on my parents for pocket money. I can actually make my own money.
I
was around 12, yeah. And I was doing the usual things like the paper rounds. Yeah. We don't really do that in Ghana, but in the UK, when you're a school child, you get up maybe 4 a.m., you go to the newspaper, you get a huge bag of newspapers and you deliver them around your area. So, it kind of teaches you.
So you wanted to be independent from since young?
I've always wanted to be in control of my life, because one thing growing up in England, especially those times, if you're not white, you're an outcast.
Yeah.
So racism, if you don't grow up in that situation, you don't understand how it really affects you. You see the thing, racism is a very negative thing, and if you're not careful, it can destroy your self-esteem. So for me, I found that it forced me to achieve. Exactly that. So whereas my classmates and schoolmates were just doing their usual thing, playing their games and stuff, I was out working and making money and then buying them stuff, you see the thing, to try and impress them, obviously. But, that developed, and then by the time I was 15, I remember a local newspaper did an article on me that, I'm doing this, I've achieved this at this young age. And then there was this company who used to sell toys. And they had a very busy Christmas period. It was a multi-million-pound company. And they had contracted a huge software company to design some software for them. And they had failed. And it was getting close to Christmas. So they saw the article and then called me in. I said, okay, this is the situation. Can you do it? Can you fix it? And I said, yeah, sure. I had no idea what I was doing.
You just accepted on that challenge.
They said, okay, fine, you've got 6 weeks. I said, oh, no problem.
You have no idea what you're doing, accepted a big challenge like that in a 6-week space.
Yeah, so what I ended up doing, I was still in school, so I'd go to school, come home, work throughout the night, maybe get 1 or 2 hours of sleep, and then, continue, and because I was young and energetic, I could handle it. So within, I think, 4 weeks, I'd come up with a prototype of the software, and it worked, and it saved their business that year. So, and I actually ended up getting £5,000 for that project. You see the thing? And I was 15 years old. £5,000 is a lot of money. Even now, it's a lot of money. So I remember from that £5,000, I bought my mum a microwave, I kitted out her kitchen, bought my dad a car, and then, you know, some other bits and pieces.
Wait, at 15, you were able to make that money and then give back to your parents. How was that feeling for you?
Oh, it felt great. Felt great because
the man of the house.
You know, the thing is, my parents, they always bent over backwards to do their best for us. You know, at home. You know, I say things were hard at home, and you know they would sacrifice everything just to make sure that their children were catered for. So I felt that look, it wasn't even a decision. It's just something I did.
Something I just did, like
exactly,
subconsciously.
Yeah. I mean, what did I need the money for?
Yeah.
You see the thing. So if I can do something for the house, it made sense. Yeah.
So I know, okay, the 5,000 that you got paid, I read that you got 9,000 later on doing your consulting, which you end up putting back in your business.
Yeah.
So being so busy at 15, from 9 to 15, working day and night to be able to create softwares and things, what were you doing on the side for fun? Because I know most 15 years old just want to go out and play. And
I was still having fun. You know, I still, weekends and stuff, I'll still go out with my classmates. You know, the usual things. You go and find someone who's a bit older, go and get them to buy you some booze, and then you go and then...
So you were having booze at 15?
Yeah. I mean, you know, kids, at that age, you want to experiment, you want to do all sorts of things. So, but at the same time, I was grounded because my parents were very strict. You see the thing. But at the same time, they allowed you to make the mistakes, but they made sure that those mistakes didn't take you too far. You see the thing. So, you know, it wasn't a problem drinking at home around 15, 16 years, because their viewpoint was that if you make something too much of a taboo, you rather want to go and then do it in secret. So they'll prefer that, okay, fine, have a glass of wine at home, and then, you know, then you don't see anything strange, anything special about it. You see the thing.
Because then you can do it in front of them when your parents allow it and accept it. So that's like, oh, it's just one of those things.
Exactly.
Instead of hiding behind to do excessive.
Yeah. So I think that helped me a lot and kept me grounded.
So you really had like your life balance, I would say. Like your Monday to Fridays were very work oriented in school.
And school, yeah.
And then your weekend were with your friends. So you still had a balance going on.
I did for a bit, yeah. I mean, a bit. It got to a point where business became so successful that I had to focus totally on it. You see the thing. It got to that point.
So what was your go-to? What was your go-to whilst you were completely focusing on business?
The thing is, you see, when you're enjoying something so much, it's your hobby as well as your work. You see the thing. So that's why it's always good, and I always recommend that, you know, if you're making a career choice, do something that you love, because then you don't feel that it's work. So if you're doing 15 hours a day, 16 hours a day, you don't really feel like you're overexerting yourself.
But then hobbies and enjoying something, but then usually I don't know how it is for you, but when there's a time limit on it and it becomes a business, like the fun out of that gets pulled away. Do you feel like that happened to you?
It did at a point, yes. It did at a point, but then at the same time there was always something else I was doing, so I still had that balance. You know, you mentioned earlier that I'm a singer, musician, and so on. So that's always been my balancing, you know. So
you were doing computing and singing and doing music at the same time?
Yeah. So I always had a studio. I think my first studio, I was about 12 or 13 years when I got my first studio.
Home studio?
Home studio, yeah. So I was always making music, and it was always connected to the computers.
Yeah, I was going to ask. It's like, I know usually it's connected to computers to like create beats and stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
Did you learn how to create beats? What intrigued you to want to sit down and create your own beats? Okay, well, I was always into music. Yeah. You know, I played the violin. I think I started playing the violin when I was 6 or 7 years old. You know, it was compulsory at school, and that's one of the problems I have with the Ghanaian education system at the moment, that it's become too narrow, rigid, and focused. Yeah. But you know,
the arts were always very important. So they tried to educate you to have a well-rounded, view of life. So I learned to play the violin at 6 or 7, and then I think by the time I was 11, I was in an orchestra. So there was every week, twice a week, we had to go to the orchestra for rehearsals and so on. We had performances and all of that. So I learned music theory. So when I was making my beats and so on, I understood the theoretical side of music. So that really helped me a lot.
So were you into, like, because I know violin and stuff are usually classic music kind of genre.
Yeah.
So when you were into classic music, were you making classic music, or were you making like the hip music at that?
No, I was making the hip music at that time. The classical music was good to understand how music is created, and how you get a listener to get hooked to a particular song, and that applies to classical music, pop music, hip hop, whatever it is. So at that time, my influences were people like Michael Jackson, Sade, Prince. Prince was a big influence on me. Those obviously Madonna and all of that sort of stuff. I was trying to make a lot of pop music and so on, and do that.
Who would you say had a huge influence on you when it came to music?
I guess it would have to be Prince and Michael Jackson.
What's your favorites of both? Like Michael, what's your favorite of Michael B?
It would have to be Michael, yeah. It would have to be Michael.
Oh, your favorite song be?
Oh, my favorite song? From him, She's Out of My Life.
Okay,
She's
that's
Out
a
of
good
My
track.
Life, yeah. Which I actually covered and then released it in 1999, yeah.
Homeland, we're going to actually go and check it out, and we're going to type the whole name, and we're going to listen to this. And Prince, what was your favorite song from Prince B?
Prince, obviously Purple Rain, When Doves Cry. Yeah. Then later on, The Most Beautiful Girl in the World. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
you have a good taste, in music. So during all that consulting, and then the business became successful, did you continue with your school, or you dropped out of school?
Okay, I continued with school until I came to Ghana when I was 17. I was always ahead in school. They moved me up a few classes. So I'd finished my A-levels early, and then I was basically supposed to go into university at that point. But then I got invited to Ghana by...
Ooh, Mr. David, you have to hold on to that one.
Okay.
Homeland, I hope you're enjoying this story as much as I am, and we're diving more into his life. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Get yourself some water, get yourself some drink. What food are we eating today? Let's get watching. Some watching egg, light. Sit down and enjoy while we get back more and talk about his Ghana trip and the reasons why he moved to Ghana. Stay tuned for more.
Welcome to the Daily Altar, where each day we bring to you a morning experience designed to inspire, empower you to manifest God's fullness in your life. Most Christians today are struggling spiritually when it comes to spending time with God. But the psalmist in Psalm 5 verse 3 says, "My voice you will hear in the morning. Oh Lord, in the morning I will direct it to you and I will look up." Join me every morning from 5 a.m. on the Daily Altar to encounter God through His Word, prayer, and worship. I am Bishop Sami Local from the Action City Church, Vision 10. God richly bless you.
Oh, shout your name, for you are God all by yourself.
Hello, welcome back to the Homeland, the story of the returnee. As you already know, we're talking to Mr. David, and we're going to dive into why he came to Ghana from 17. He finished his A-levels, and then what made you come to Ghana after that?
Okay, so at that point, I was running a very successful business, and we're talking about multi-million pound at that point in the UK, and I was 17, and I had actually moved into designing medical software. So I was selling it to the GPs, the doctors in the UK, and I was getting a lot of publicity. So I was on TV, radio, newspapers almost every day. And there was one time I mentioned on a breakfast show that my mother was Ghanaian. Prior to that, it just hadn't come up. And the next day, I had a call from West Africa magazine. So they came and did an interview, and then it was published in West Africa. So then I had a call from the Ghana High Commissioner in London that they wanted to see me. So my dad was so excited because he loved everything about Ghana. Yeah, he used to come and go, but whereas my mum would stay in the UK with us. And they invited us to the High Commission in London, and they said that they had read about what I was doing, and the president of Ghana at that time, he was the chairman of the PNDC. That was Flight Lieutenant Rawlings. Is inviting you to Ghana to basically come and do your part for the country. Now, I was so excited about it. My dad was overly excited. My mum was like, no. So, but I came. This was in 1990, so I was 17. I came, and then it was amazing. Literally at the airport, there were thousands of people waiting for me, because I was in the newspapers here saying, so it's like a superstar has arrived. It felt so strange. And straight from the airport after meeting, and I arrived around 3 a.m. because the flight had been delayed, and still all these people were still waiting in the rain. So it was amazing. And then so I did all the interviews at the airport and so on, and then I was whisked off straight to my hometown, which is in the central region, a place called Ekumfi Otuam, where I was installed as the chief.
Out of your own will, or were you kidnapped?
I was kidnapped, but then I guess I could have refused it.
Really?
I guess so. I guess so. The thing is, everybody was so supportive, especially my father and all that, and this was the first time I was meeting my family here, and I didn't realize I had so many cousins and aunties and uncles, and finally I felt like, yes, this is where I belong. Yeah. Because all the time I was growing up in the UK, I felt like, no, there's something missing. I don't really belong here, because you have friends, but they can just turn on you anytime. You see the thing? It's you're never seen as one of them. So when I got here and I realized, look, I belong here, and more than that, people were proud of me, proud of what I had achieved and what I was doing out there, and so on.
So you felt home, like the love was just there for you.
So I felt definitely I was at home. I mean, it was a huge culture shock, because at that time there were no supermarkets. I think there was one called Multi-Stores on the high street, and it was not a supermarket that I was used to. You see the thing? There were no there was nothing basically at that time.
Fast,
You see the thing? But regardless of that, it didn't matter. I realized that, look, there are more important things than having the best roads, the best electricity, and all that. There's the fact that you have a network, a family, people who respect you, people who you can impart the little you had learned at that time, and you can improve upon, over there, when I was selling my software, it was usually to people who had already got something and they were upgrading. But here, I remember the very first project I did was to computerize the airport. I wrote all the software systems for the airport. So that was all of their billing for the airlines, the payroll, the accounting, inventory, flight safety, en routes, all the planes flying.
How old were you then when you were doing that?
Then I was 17, 18 at that time. I just turned 18, because when I came, I decided to stay. So basically
Okay, so you're running your business in London that's making you the money that you need. Moved to Ghana, so you came to Ghana for an interview, which you wasn't supposed to really stay initially.
Yeah, it was
go?
a 1 month trip. So it was basically a state sponsored trip.
Yes, and then you got kidnapped to go to the village and be a king.
Yep.
Which traditional in Ghana, they don't tell you if they want you to be the king. They just kidnap you and you have to go there. So when you were king, so how did that royalty fall on you? Like, how was that?
Okay, well, basically, my grand uncle, he's called SK02. He used to be the director of the Bureau of Languages, and then he was an MP in Nkrumah's government at that time. My mother being in the royal family, sort of thing. So at that time he was growing pretty old, and he wasn't too well. So he said he didn't want to wait until he died before he handed over. So basically, when in chieftaincy in the Akans.
Yeah, we eat from my mother's side.
Yeah, it's from the mother's side, but it also means that there are always choices.
Yeah.
You sort of thing. So maybe there are 2 or 3 or 4 different choices. So basically, they chose me to succeed him as the chief for Otuam. So literally, I knew absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
I knew nothing. I mean, I didn't understand the language.
Yeah, I was going to say, so how was that transitioning for you?
It was tough. It was really tough. But, traditionally, I've always had a problem with languages. I did very well in French, but the moment I stopped learning it, I forgot everything.
Yeah.
These sort of things. So language is one of my real difficulties. Even to today, I find it difficult. I can understand the Fanti and so on, but to speak it, it's a mouthful for me, and it's embarrassing. So I try not to say.
Can you say one word in Fanti? It's embarrassing.
Inyo.
Oh, Inyo. That is so safe. That's a very safe bit.
So it was a real culture shock, but at the same time, everyone was so supportive. And because I was so young, they didn't expect me to take over the reins instantly. And because my granduncle was still alive, so it was like a transition. So it was easier for me than somebody.
So you got thought into it because your granduncle was alive.
Exactly,
so he's kind of taught you the tradition and everything.
They taught me the cultural, the ways, the libation, and all those sorts of things that go along with the traditions of being a chief.
So with that, and I know you were doing like all the computing for the airports. How was that? How did that work out, being a chief, and how were you able to get that gig?
Well, being a chief wasn't really too demanding. You sort of thing. It wasn't too demanding because, as I say, my granduncle was there, and the elders were there, and there's a whole structure in chieftaincy. So being the chief, you're really more of a figurehead. You sort of thing. That's why as soon as a chief dies, they can replace you instantly. So it's not as if without you things don't happen. So it wasn't too much of a responsibility at that point. So I could still focus on the computing. So I basically had to close down my company in the UK.
I was going to ask you that one. So was that easy for you to do?
It was very easy. It was very easy.
How?
The environment. I was very successful in the UK, but as I say, I never felt like I belonged.
You belonged, yeah.
So the money was secondary. The money has always been secondary. And fortunately, I had made enough money to be able to afford to close the company and then move to Ghana. So even if I didn't have a job for a long time here, it didn't really matter. But because I had been asked by the government to come, obviously they put me to work straight away. So they made me a consultant. I started a company here, and let's say the first project they asked me to do was to computerize the airport. This was back in 1991 or something. So that was.
So would you say you were, since you enjoyed computing anyways, and it was a hobby, something you really enjoyed, would you say when you closed it and having the job in Ghana it was a smooth transition in a way which is still financially good for your business?
It wasn't smooth. I don't want to sugarcoat the issues. I had a lot of challenges here. Doing business in Ghana is a huge challenge. In that, especially then, in the UK, when you're doing something, there are rules, regulations, and laws. You dare not step out of the prescribed way of doing something. Otherwise, they'll catch you, and you'll be dealt with. You'll be fined, you'll be jailed, whatever it is. But in Ghana, in Ghana and Africa, there's there are lots of gray areas. So it was a real problem for me, especially with corruption. It was a huge problem because I didn't understand the idea of doing something for somebody. You understand? I thought, you want me to do a job for you. I've quoted my price. You want the product. I want the money.
The money.
Let's just do the business but then there's this whole issue of they're expecting something from that, and for doing absolutely no work. So that was a difficult area for me, and I found it very, very tough to understand the cultural background to all of that. So that's something that took me a number of years to really.
Still, do you find it hard, or right now you're just like, have you agreed to that way of life?
I've not agreed to it, but you can't allow yourself to be frustrated by every time a policeman stops and is just trying to frustrate you to get some money. I can't allow. I used to fight with the police all the time.
I still do.
I used to fight. I mean, I'll tell you. Look, if there's something wrong, maybe let's say if my insurance is expired, send me to the police station and deal with me. Which they will never do. You see the thing? So, and for me, because I came from that background, I always used to make sure that I had all my documents and everything.
Did they used to call you, I know my rights?
Too known.
Too known, I know my rights.
Yeah, too known. These are broachy people, they're too known.
Especially the Londoners. They have a name for Londoners. I know my rights.
You see, so that used to get me into a lot of trouble. So I would spend hours at the roadside fighting with policemen because they'll just detain you for no reason. Because they want to show you that they have the power.
But then they forget that sometimes we have the hours to also sit down there and argue with you.
Exactly. That's it.
So now you find you were in this new culture, a new country, like continent actually as a whole. What made you? Did you ever got to a point where you were like, I can't do this anymore, I want to just go back?
Honestly, I did a few times. And I actually got to the point where I did go back at one point. I think this would have been around 96. So I came in 1990. And
6 years.
Yeah,
oh, wow,
6 years, and a lot of things happened in business. There were things that shouldn't happen. People stealing your software and using it, and it even happens today. But I got to the point where you realize that the court systems were not working. There was no legal redress, and all this. And I thought, I'm just wasting my time doing this sort of thing. And then by that time, I had burned through all of my savings and everything. So I was literally living on whatever I produced in Ghana. And I had a computer school in Ghana at that time, and then we developed banking software, medical software, all sorts of things. And then I said, no, I'm just going back. I actually got very sick. I got typhoid and almost died. And that was the last straw. I said, no, I'm going back.
You're going back?
Yeah.
When you were going back, did you ever regret closing your business in London initially?
I did, because I felt like at that time I've wasted 6 years of my life. By now I could have been, and that was when the internet and everything started to happen. And if I was in the UK by that time, by now I would have been a multi-billionaire and all that, doing this thing. But then once I got there, and then after being there a few months, then you realize, no, it's the same situation.
I need to go back home.
Look, no matter what, I have to deal with my understanding of the culture, because I came to meet a certain system, and I can't expect that things are going to work the way they do in the UK. Because there's hundreds of years of history that have made
it to the point it is today.
That's why Ghana is what it is today.
Well, Mr. David, you have to pause on that one. We need to keep you guys coming for more and really diving more into the culture and the reasons why Ghana is still young and UK has hundreds of years to develop to whatever it was developed right now. Don't move, stay tuned for more.
Let me guess, you're probably wondering, another talk show? What could they possibly have to talk about?
Relationships, gossip, or entertainment?
What if we bring it all to you in the good, the bad, and the ugly way?
Yes, you heard that right. We're bringing you the latest stories from around the world and right here in Ghana. We come with our unique backgrounds and beliefs.
But when we come together, we put all our wild thoughts and concerns on the table.
So sit back, relax, as we bring you
the good, the bad, and the ugly. Coming soon on DNT.
Welcome back to the Homeland. It's your host Nana Ansah, and we're with Mr. David. We're going to talk about when he left Ghana after 6 years, and how long did it take you to be in London and want to come back home, since Ghana is where you thought you belonged.
Okay, well, I went back, to say, 96, and fortunately, because I had the computer skills, even though I'd closed down my company, I restarted it, and then I was doing a lot of contracting work for banks. So I was doing a lot of design work for banks and so on, and making a lot of money. I mean, back then I think that I would have been about 24, 25 at that point, and I was making about £100 an hour.
Oh, okay.
You know, just doing these things. Yeah. So the money was the money was not a problem back then, and you know, so what it enabled me do was, I was based there, but then I would come back to Ghana often. Okay. So at that point, I still had my computer school running in Ghana at that time. So I would come back every few months and then come and, you know, keep the ties, keep things going. So I never really abandoned Ghana. Yeah, it was just that I felt like, no, I needed to get back and
revamp yourself.
Yeah, recharge, you know, and understand really what I was doing and where I was heading, you know, because sometimes when you're digging a hole, you don't see.
So how long were you in London when you left Ghana? How long did you stay in London for?
So I was in London from 96 to 99. Okay. So just 3 years. 3 years. But all that time I was, as I say, coming back to Ghana. Yeah. So what we were doing in London, I set up a studio in London, a recording studio. Okay. So that was a big studio, actually, based in an area called Hackney, and that's where a lot of Caribbeans are, Jamaicans and so on. So we ended up teaming up with a lot of the Jamaican reggae artists, you know, the London-based artists. So I don't know if you've heard of Aswad. There was this reggae group called Aswad, and then some other lovers rock singers, and they were very big in the UK, and they had a number of top 10 hits and were multimillionaires and all of that. So we ended up working with them, set up the studio, and then I brought a talent from Ghana.
Hold up, Mr. David. So what made you want to establish your studio in London all of a sudden? Because you know you're doing computing and you already love music. Yeah. But all of a sudden you want to pursue what made you want to pursue the music?
Music has always been my number one passion, always. So as I say, there's always been a time where I've had a studio, whether it was in Ghana, whether it was in the UK. So it was natural for me that when I went back to set up another studio, but this time I wanted to do it commercially and make money from it. And so that's what we did. So we said, no, look, it wasn't just about me making my own music, but we wanted to set up a label. So that's when we founded DKB Productions. And we brought an artist, at that time he was called Pricky Yadi. Yeah, so we brought him from Ghana to London, and then we signed him with our label, and then he worked with some of the top dancehall producers in London. So we recorded in our studios, and then we brought him back to Ghana in '99. And then I don't know if you've heard this song Obafa Fefe.
Yes.
That was Pricky Yadi.
Okay.
So it became an instant hit, sort of thing. So when that happened, we moved to the studio. That's when I said, look, I'm fed up with England. I'm
Again,
just coming back.
Coming back fully to Ghana now.
Yeah, so what I actually did is I said, I don't have anything to do with software or computing for a while.
Okay.
Right, so I gave everything up and focused purely on music. This was in 1999. We moved all the equipment here, set up the studio here in Accra, in Dansuman. And then we started producing a lot of artists. So artists such as Obrafo, Tic Tac, Abriwanana, Mensa, Mensa of FOKN Boys.
Yes.
Yep. We produced his first album, Abriwana's first album, VIP, Exdo, Forian Ponsa, all of them.
All the good ones. All the good ones.
Exactly. So a number of the artists. So we were part of the whole hip life movement at that time, and we became very, very popular, very, very good. We had a number of hits, at that point, and then I realized that still there has to be a balance.
Yeah.
So that's when I got back into the IT again. Yeah. So
when you moved this time around to Ghana permanently, did you stay or did you go up again?
I stayed.
And you were like,
since then I've been here.
Oh, do you go back and forth? Would you say?
If I go back, literally, it's for a holiday. Literally, I mean, I've never done any kind of work in the UK since 2000.
And how is that working for you right now in Ghana?
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. I mean,
and you would you say you finally it's like you're comfortable with your decision?
Yes. The thing is, I have no regrets. Because I realize that if you live your life in regret, you can't move forward. You're always looking back at your past mistakes and so on. So that's a policy I've had for a number of years. No regrets. Whatever you've done, you've done.
You've done it.
You sort of think, just move forward and learn from your mistakes and try not to repeat them if possible.
So do you sing yourself?
I do.
Well,
I do.
Well, my viewers, should we get Mr. David to sing a little bit? But then if we do, you already know we do at the end, so we can't really do that much. So Mr. David, now you're in Ghana, and you're finally settled now. Is business running as you hope for it to run?
Yeah, business is full of ups and downs, and that happens with all businesses. I mean, take a company like Nokia. Who would have thought that Nokia would go down?
Yeah.
BlackBerry.
Yes.
You see the thing. So, business is a roller coaster ride, but the thing is that you should always try and be one step ahead of the game.
So how did the SOFTtribe Limited birth?
So Soft, we've been around since 1991, and we've been working on projects, since then. So even when I took my 2 years off, I was still doing bits and pieces of work, and then it's like, okay, let me come back.
Yeah.
Then I had some very good partners in the business as well. Herman Chinri Hesse is one of my partners, and then Teta Antonio is another partner. So they've always been very, very supportive, and we all do other things as well. So Herman has run nightclubs, he's into property development and all sorts of things. So we understand that life is about doing different things and balancing and following your passion. But software for all of us has always been like the foundation of everything. So SOFTtribe, we do a lot of work for government. We do government payroll. Actually, one of the major projects we're doing now is with Ghana Water. Okay. So I'm sure now if you receive your water bill by SMS and you can pay with mobile money, we do all of those systems.
So you're talking about like the software for Ghana Waters, the payroll.
Yeah, for Ghana Water. So that's the kind of thing we do. We're always trying to create innovative solutions, that benefit Ghanaians, and then what we call it is tropically tolerant solutions.
Okay.
So we develop systems that are designed for the African environment, because we have peculiar challenges here.
Yeah, especially within since you're into the music industry.
Yes.
So how are you there? How are you helping the music industry within the software sector?
That's a good question. One big challenge in the music industry at the moment, and it was a huge challenge worldwide when the internet came. And then people were traditionally buying music on vinyl, then CDs.
Yeah.
And then the internet came, and then people
streaming.
were, people were just copying songs. You see the thing, and then it meant the whole industry almost collapsed.
Yeah.
And worldwide, the music industry virtually collapsed. But then eventually, they managed to work out a model where people could pay for music. That's when streaming started to become a thing, and then downloads and so on. And then you found that people like Apple came up with iTunes, and then Apple Music, and then Spotify, and Napster, all these other ones that have come up. Jay-Z has his, I've forgotten what Jay-Z's one is. Tidal, yeah, Tidal. Yeah. So we realized that in Ghana still, it's difficult for people within Ghana to buy music.
Yes.
Right. So what's happening is most musicians are forced to put their stuff out there for free on these sites, so that people can download their tracks for free, so that they can get popular enough to do shows. So the only way they make money is doing shows, because the reality is when they put their stuff on iTunes and Spotify, apart from the very few top artists, they don't make any money. Maybe a few $100s here or there if they're lucky. You know, even on YouTube, do you know how much for 1 million streams you get?
Oh yeah, less than.
It's about $600.
Yeah.
About for 1 million streams, about $600. Which, and how many artists get 1 million streams? Apart from the Kiddies, the Sarkodie's, and so on, very few. So, you know, if you add all of that up, you realize that it is not profitable being a musician at the moment. You know, for the vast majority of musicians, because how many shows can you do? You see the thing. So it's important that we have the ability to purchase music. Ghanaians have to be, one, sensitized to the fact that a musician goes to the studio, they spend money, they spend sleepless nights creating music that we all jam to in the clubs and the spots.
I agree with that. I feel like when it comes to creative industry, you have to put in the money if you do want them, either it's movie or if it's music, because that's how they create and that's what they make their money from.
I always use this analogy that will you walk into a baker and tell them, oh, please give me your loaf of bread for free?
For free. No.
You won't. But we tell musicians, oh, send me your song.
Because they don't respect it, but the creative industry is what makes us relax, less stressful, because they listen to all these things that are moving you around. Like, it plays important.
Not just that, every other industry, if you're looking at the beverage industries, you know, products, food products and all that, they use music to promote their products.
Yes.
Can you imagine a TV commercial with no music?
We can't even imagine day to day without music. Even Ghanaian culture and all is very musical.
So we have to be able to pay the musicians for what they're doing. These are the things. So we're actually coming up with a platform which works similar to the iTunes platform, where you know, the public can actually buy the songs and download them using their mobile money and so on. So if they have credit cards or debit cards, they can use those as well for those living outside and so on. But for the majority of us, we all have mobile money. So we're making it easy for them to just have the app on their phone. As and when the music is released, they can just click on it, pay maybe 1 CD, you get your song.
So when is that going to be launched? When?
We're launching very soon. Within the next month, we'll be launching.
Do you have a specific date that you want us to throw in?
Not yet. Not yet, but very soon.
Keep in mind, it's soon coming. Very soon, we can be able to purchase songs and, you know, support our artists in Ghana to make them who they are, and also help them with their everyday living, because that's how they make their living from. My final for you will be we have a final segment called the Big Six.
The Big Six?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's a statement of either or. So I say a statement and you choose one.
Either
you can't
or.
play the
Well, that's a programming term, so I should do well with that.
You can't plead the fifth and you can't select both. You have to be one, and you can't be politically correct.
Wow. Okay, I'll try.
And then after that, whatever you choose, you have to explain why.
Okay.
Are you ready for this?
I hope so.
Well, let's see how that would go. My Big Six for you is formal or traditional?
Traditional.
Why?
Because in my understanding, formal is not necessarily Ghanaian.
Yes.
Right? Traditional has so much cultural background and so on to it that I think we should be less embarrassed about being traditional, right? I hardly wear a suit.
That was what I was going to ask you. Do you feel like businesses in Ghana, or generally people that work in Ghana, should be able to wear their traditional attires or African print in a business where, because suits, coats and all that are foreign, and Ghana is too hot. It's a tropical country to...
Yeah, my average day, I'm wearing a wooden shirt. So that's what I wear for my meetings with the government, with corporate ministers, whoever.
Yes.
I'm in my African print.
Well, I love that.
Not just on Fridays. Not just on Fridays.
Politician or preacher?
Oh, God. Can I say neither?
No. You can't plead the fifth. You have to select one.
Politician then. Politician.
Ooh, why?
I think that one of the biggest problems we have in this country is due to religion and our over-reliance on spiritual issues. Right? It has made us lazy as a people. I believe in a God, right? But I'm not going to
subscribe to one specific religion.
Delegate my responsibility to do what I have to do to make my life and other people's lives better, and just say, oh no, give it to God, and then every reason is ascribed to God. You see the thing? No, and that's what's killing this country, because we have become very lazy. I mean, look, people can spend 3, 4, 5 days a week in church, right, giving the money to the pastor. Meanwhile, praying for money, instead of working for the money. You know, for me, it's a huge issue. I think they should tax the churches.
Yes,
big time.
They should, and they should close some churches down, and unless they have their Bible education, something.
The thing is, look, if you're a church, how dare you as a pastor buy a Rolls Royce? It's disgusting. You see the thing, that's money. Let's say you're spending $300,000-400,000 on a car for yourself to look good. Why don't you start schools? Why don't you start hospitals? You see the thing. Give back to your people.
Okay. Beauty or brains?
Or brains.
Why?
Because I don't have beauty, so brains. brains are what move the world forward.
Money or fame?
Money.
Why?
Money. Look, there's nothing worse than being a broke famous person.
I always say this, there's nothing worse than being a broke famous, because you're famous and everyone think you're living the life. So do you feel like we have a lot of broke famous people?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of hollow people out there. A lot.
My viewers, I hope you enjoyed this as I am. Structured routine or go with the flow?
Structured routine.
Why?
One, I think you can only build upon what you've done by repeating a certain process. Right? For me, for instance, I wake up at 4:30 every morning. I go jogging. See, I live at McCarthy Hill, so the hill is there. I jog up the hill, go down to the gym. By 6:30, I'm done at the gym. I come back home, get ready for town, go to work, do whatever I have to do. So you know, when you know that you have certain responsibilities and you fulfill them, there's a sense of achievement. If you just go with the flow, you find that 10 years can pass and you haven't really done anything, and there's no way to measure what you've achieved.
But do you feel like you need a balance of go with the flow and a little bit of balance of structure?
Yeah, but you're not allowing me to. It's either or. So
yes. I was going to, I end up playing my own game. My final one for you, which I know which answer you're going to select, but I'm going to ask anyways. Sing or dance?
Oh, sing. I'm a terrible dancer.
So I'm going to, my camera guys are around. You have to sing something.
Oh, you actually meant I have to? Oh, God. Okay, then you have to be a...
Do you need a beat? Do you need a clap?
No, I'm all right. There's this classic song written by Charlie Chaplin.
Okay.
Right, which has been covered by Nat King Cole, Judy Garland, Sammy Davis Jr., Michael Jackson. And it's called Smile.
Oh, Smile. Oh, yeah, that's pretty good. Okay.
All right, shall we go?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Smile though your heart is aching. Smile even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you'll get by. If you smile through your fear and sorrow, smile and maybe tomorrow you'll find that life is still worthwhile if you just smile.
Yes. Thank you. I love that song. I actually love it. Well, so my what would your advice be for anyone who wants to leave Ghana to abroad for a greener pasture, and people that want to come to Ghana and settle?
You know, it's funny, I have this conversation a lot with people that say they want to go, especially people who have never gone before, and they say, oh, things are too tough for them here, they want to go, and they seem to think that I have a booklet of visas that I can help them to get to London, is it a thing? And it's difficult to explain to somebody that, look, when you go there, you are going to hustle. You are, just to make ends meet, you're going to do 3-4 jobs. At the same time, you're going to clean, you're going to scrub toilets, you're going to be a security guard. You know, not that there's anything wrong with those things. Right, there's nothing wrong with those things. However, they seem to think that when they go, they're just going to make money and have it easy. But they will, I will say that the amount of effort that you're prepared to put in when you go there, if you do just half of that here, you'll be so successful. Because there's so much opportunity in Ghana.
And the other thing that I don't get, which I'm going to throw a little bit in, when they ask you to raise $20,000 US to get the visa, and you can raise that within a year, what happens to having the same method and effort to raise the extra 20?
Exactly.
Like, I always questioned it.
If you had that $20,000 and you invested it here into a business, can you imagine what would happen? All those people that went outside, and it takes them years to make that money back and then send it back to Ghana, when they could have invested that time and energy here and developed the country.
So people that are coming from outside,
they should all come.
They should
all come. Yes.
What would you say the expectations should be?
One, they should be realistic, right? They will definitely be frustrated to a point, right? Don't expect things to work. Look, you've left, you've abandoned your country, your homeland, right? And you expect that everything will be well here. No, you left. So come back and fix the problem. We need enough people, we need like a critical mass. People who know the right thing, right? That will come back and will stand up to, you know, to the system. Because when it's just one or two people, we end up just conforming. But if enough people come back and say, look, we're not accepting this, you must run your healthcare system better. The police must operate ethically. The government must be responsible to the people. Definitely, things will change.
Will change.
They will
so
change.
we need a mass to come in. It's
Absolutely,
just not like the minorities like here and there, but the whole movement.
And it's not a 5-day affair. It's going to take years of constant pushing. So
you heard what Mr. David said. Your expectations. It's not like you throw your expectations away, but then Ghana is a developing world to a developed world. Your expectations have to be a bit less. Not accepting or conforming to society, but able to push barriers and know that you go through some challenges and frustrations. But Ghana is always home, and if we don't build it, who's going to build it for us?
Exactly.
And also, I want to know where your studio is located. For anyone that wants to watch and
our studio is at Wager, on the way to West Hills Mall. It's a place called Modex Junction, so just by the old barrier around that area. So we're open to all. Anybody that wants to come and record with us. Our services are available to everybody. So
how would one find out the prices and everything? Would they have to call?
Give us a call, because it depends on the sort of project you're doing and how many tracks, and if it's a full album, if it's a single, you know, and the type of music, what's involved, and all of that. But we like working on every type of music, you know, and we don't discriminate.
And do you do sign an artist, like artists that don't have anything, but they feel like I have this talent and I want to come and sign?
We are looking at that. I mean, we used to do that. We had a label, and we actually have signed some artists that we're working with at the moment. And I think a problem is a lot of labels in Ghana, they end up signing too many people and then they can't handle them.
Yeah.
So for us, we are sticking to who we've signed. We want to make sure that we develop their brand fully before we look at taking on more people.
So you have a queue, a waiting line for anyone that wants to.
Literally, in the last 6 months, I've had more than 1,000 songs being sent to me. It's difficult. I try to listen to as much as I can and to respond to as many people as I can. But honestly, it's difficult doing that as well as doing the actual work. So some people may think I'm being a bit arrogant, but it's just truly that we're overwhelmed at the moment, with the response.
So guys, I told you I always have your back, and I always ask the questions that you want answers to. You've heard Mr. David, and it's not like he's been arrogant. It's just there's too much people on board that they have to listen to, and can only reply to few due to the fact that it's managing other artists.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed this. And Mr. David, thank you so much for your time.
Thank
you for sharing your story and how the Whiz Kid, I know it was written on your newsletter article, and how he started out from 9, making money from 9, but then you see he wasn't making money. It was something he was passionate about and also enjoyed the challenges behind it, which therefore created a revenue for him. And he was able to throw all that aside because it wasn't the money that he was after. It was a challenge, and also creating new software and solving problems. So always be the problem solver. Find the solution. Look for the problem and find the solution. That's what Mr. David did. And that's why he's still in Ghana today, running his business. Thank you so much.
Thank you too.
So you're watching Homeland, the story of the returnee. I hope you enjoyed today's show.
Baby, my style pisa. Crow, don't mommy away. Yeah, bring your bottom, my appearance at that toto. My whoopony and they sense and say me